Grady informed me that Trish Grady informed me that she was stuck in traffic and would be late, so. Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties to the September 23rd, 2021 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Committee. I'm Chris McFarland, acting chairman of the Conservation Committee. We'll be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset Wetland Protection Act and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. We'll be operating this meeting using the Zoom platform and ask the public who wish to speak to enter their question or concern into the chat box. Please include your name and address. Only those who include their name and address will be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator, Angela Giso, and the town's Conservation Agent, Charlotte Pechtel. Sorry. I'll now take a roll call of commissioners and associate commissioners, asking you to respond by repeating your name and saying present. I think I have this alphabetical. William Ashton.
William Ashton's here.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, present.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, present.
Trish Grady is going to be late. Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari here.
Chris McFarland here, and Associate Commissioner Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre here.
Very good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6. We have a quorum of 6 voting commissioners tonight. We'll be taking all votes via roll call, with each commissioner answering yay, nay, or abstain. We have a bit of housekeeping to start the meeting. The first item is we have new members and new term appointments. So again, we need to nominate and fill the roles on the Conservation Commission. I'll entertain motions for the position of chair.
Jay Pampari would like to nominate Chris McFarland for chair.
I'll second that.
Do we have any other nominations? Okay, having
Nope.
heard a having heard a motion and a second to make Chris McFarland the chair of the Conservation Commission, quickly take a vote. William Ashton.
Yay.
Tom Bell.
Yeah.
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Certainly aye.
Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari, aye.
And that vote passes
You
5-0.
didn't vote yourself.
I know, I'm not going to vote for myself. I'll abstain. So it's
Right.
5-0-1. I'll entertain a motion for the position of vice chair.
I nominate Jay Pampari.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Having heard a motion and a second for Jay Pampari to be the vice chair, take a roll call vote. William Ashton.
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. And Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari, nay.
Sorry, you get voted in with a vote of 5-1-0. The last position to fill is that of Secretary Treasurer. Do I hear a motion for Secretary Treasurer?
Jay Pampari will nominate Kathy Berrigan.
Eric Eisenhower seconds that.
Do we have any other nominations? Trish got out of this. She said next time she was going to step up. So having heard a motion and a second for Kathy Berrigan in the position of Secretary Treasurer, I'll take a roll call vote. William Ashton.
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Jay Pampari.
Jay Pampari, aye.
And Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0-0. Second item this evening is to appoint liaisons to various town organizations that might use input from the Conservation Commission. Rather than nominate here, we'll just look for volunteers. First, we're going to look for a volunteer for the liaison to the Harbor Committee. I believe Tom Bell once said he was interested.
Yes.
Why don't we just do what is it? Do we have all in favor? Can we just say all in favor for Tom Bell?
I'll make a note, Mr. Chair, and why don't we just do them all with one motion at the end? I'll make so if there are no other nominees, I will just write it down and then we'll just do one big roll call vote at the
Okay.
end. How's that?
Very good.
Is that Tom Bell for Harbor Committee?
Harbor Committee, right?
Yep.
And we need a volunteer liaison for the Community Preservation Committee, I think it is.
Chris,
I'll-
I'm currently that liaison. I will continue unless someone else would like to step in and take it over.
No, I think you're the man. You're the man for the job. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
Do we have a volunteer for liaison to Open Space and Recreation? Someone mentioned they were interested.
I think Mary Ann had been filling that position.
Can I say something, Chris?
Yes.
This is more than just a perfunctory position. They fulfill about a third of the strategic role that we should have on Concom, which is to look out for the future land purchases, the land policy, the development of plots of land on behalf of Cohasset. You know, if you read the regs, we're supposed to be doing that. Well, somehow that's evolved into the this other committee. So when land comes up, they have a strategic role in not only developing the package, working with the Cohasset Conservation Trust, but also putting the package together. So it's quite important, I think, to the future land development of wetlands and wildlands in Cohasset. So enough said.
Thank you, Eric.
Chris, you also need to make it clear that associates can be liaisons.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's a position a liaison need, I would be glad to fill that spot.
Good.
That'd be great. Thank you, Chris.
Do we need a second, Tom? Chris?
I'm gonna make a motion at the
You're
end.
gonna make a motion at the end.
Okay.
Then the last liaison was to the, Tom, correct me if I have this wrong. It's the Turkey Hill Preservation Committee. Is that correct?
Turkey Hill Management Committee.
Management Committee. Okay. Now, are you already involved with that or no?
Yeah, I've been doing it. I can continue doing it if nobody else wants to. I mean, I do know what they're doing and
You're the man, Tom.
oh, thanks, Jay.
Unless someone else wants to
I'm a
step
Turk.
in. Nope. Tom, thank you very much. You're filling a lot of shoes here.
Okay.
There are a lot of frustrated dog walkers, Tom. They want to know what the hell is going on to their favorite dog walking area.
Oh, well, we're gonna mess it up really bad. You watch.
Good. So Jay, would you make a motion, please?
Yep. So JP, I'd like to make a motion to appoint as liaisons from the Conservation Commission, Tom Bell to the Harbor Committee, Eric Eisenhower to the Community Preservation Committee, Chris McIntyre to the Open Space and Recreation, and Tom Bell to the Turkey Hill Management Committee.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
William
second
Ashton,
all that.
Having a motion and a second for liaisons to various committees, we'll take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Aye.
Jay Pampare,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
and Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 6-0. Well, that was our housekeeping. Next, we'll proceed to our hearing of applications, starting with a new proposed sidewalk along Sawyer Street. I need to read this into the record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021, which was continued from September 9th at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on Zoom platform from the town of Cohasset DPW for a notice of intent 21-28 for construction of approximately 1,300 linear feet of sidewalk on the northerly side of Sawyer Street with proposed curb lines and additional catch basins as needed. Charlotte, can I ask you to figure out who we need to promote here?
Yes, I can do that.
I'm glad you know who.
Well, it's at least Jason, and maybe Jason can tell us who else is going to need to be promoted.
Jason, should I promote Beth too?
Mark Negrati.
Yep.
Who is the other person you said?
Beth?
I think so, yes. I have to ask Mark when he gets on, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, Beth. I didn't see her name in there, sorry. And Katie Dugan too.
Jason, who will be presenting?
I can do some introductions. So again, Jason Federico from the DPW department. Tetra Tech was our engineer on this, and this project was part of the master plan implementation as well as complete streets. So that's why Katie is here to speak to that portion of it. But I'll turn it over to Mark DeGrati from Tetra Tech to take over and present the project itself.
Mark, do you have a plan to share?
We do, and Beth's gonna load it up on the screen and we're gonna talk about it. So just for introductions, I'm Mark Negrati from Tetra Tech. I'm here with Beth Parent and Ed Hutcherson from Tetra Tech. I'm the project manager of the project, and Beth has helped out with the stormwater report, and Ed Hutcherson has prepared the NOI application for the town. As Jason mentioned, the project involves, this is a sidewalk project. It's part of a larger project for the town as a planning purposes. And this project in particular is along Sawyer Street on the northerly side of Sawyer Street, roughly 1,300 linear feet in length. And it connects from Route 3A up into an existing sidewalk just to the east of Fair Oaks Lane.
Mark, can I jump in for 1 sec? Sorry, it says that my screen sharing is disabled.
I think Charlotte can fix that.
Great.
How about now, Beth?
Switching over. The plan should help as Mark's describing it.
Yeah. So Beth, since you have the plan and you're controlling the plan, you can speak to this plan for sure. If you'd like.
Sure. So this is just
Okay.
the key plan showing the project location. Here's Route 3A, Sawyer Street between Fair Oaks Lane and Route 3A intersection, just about. There is no existing sidewalk there today. The town is proposing to add a sidewalk to create or fill in the missing link, basically, where there's a sidewalk missing today. And here is the master plan. This is the location of the project right here, where there is a problem area or a missing sidewalk. That's the purpose of the project. And we are within some resource area. So I'll just let Ed talk quickly about which resource areas we're in, and then I can get into the stormwater management.
Thanks, Beth. My name is Ed Hutchinson, wetland scientist with Tetra Tech. There are 3 areas of boring vegetated wetland within the project area. We just labeled them on the plans, wetlands A, B, and C. They all are pretty much around the western project limit. Wetland A is on the southerly side of Sawyer Street. pretty much the longest wetland, and then wetlands B and C are on the northerly side, and pretty much they are the same wetland. They're just broken up by an upland that's kind of extends more northerly. These wetlands are typical New England red maple swamp, forested wetland, dominated by red maple, American elm, tupelo. And the shrub layer consists of probably a button bush and sweet pepper bush. Like I said, typical red maple swamp. The project itself is the western half of it is within buffer zone, 100-foot buffer zone. And we're going to probably introduce roughly 5,750 square feet of impervious area with the new sidewalk. About 2,600 square feet of that will be within the buffer zone. So roughly half of that impervious area of the whole project, 2,678 square feet within the buffer zone. And within that buffer zone, there's about 2,200 square feet that are within the 50-foot inner buffer zone, which is part of Cohasset's wetland bylaw. And because that 50 feet is within the 50-foot buffer zone, the bylaw requires a variance from the bylaw. The bylaw requires a variance. So what we did was try to explain in the text how we meet those requirements of the variance. Roughly, the bylaw has 4 or 5 additional interests that take into consideration in the bylaw, and among those are erosion control, water quality, what else we have? Wildlife, recreation, and aesthetics. So we try to explain in the text how we meet those. And under recreation, we feel that definition of recreation in your bylaw says use and enjoyment of natural surroundings. So with the sidewalk improvements, we felt we could bring the public closer to those, the use and enjoyment of the recreational area. Same thing for aesthetics. Your bylaw says aesthetics are the natural and natively scenic impression one gets, from say looking at a wetland or natural area. And again, with the sidewalk improvements, we feel we could bring the public closer to those natural areas and that kind of thing. So again, if you want to follow through on the text more, you can we explain a little bit how we meet all those. But basically, there's, like I said, 2,000 square feet within the inner buffer zone, and that's why we need a variance. But maybe Beth can explain a little bit more about the rest of the project and water quality benefits and things like that.
Sure. Just real quickly back to the key plan. So within the project area, we have 2 sub-watersheds. There's a high point just west of Fair Oaks Lane. So most of the project drains down to the low point near the wetland areas that Ed mentioned. And that drains to James Brook. And then a small portion from the high point towards the east to the project limit drains towards Lily Pond. So that is the background. The existing conditions, I'll just get back to the plan. The existing condition in the project area has no curbing, no sidewalk, so it's country drainage. There are some catch basins, which, since there's no curbing, I think probably only function during very large storms. So we're adding the curbing and the sidewalk. Therefore, we're adding a closed drainage system. We're adding deep sump catch basins. Every deep sump catch basin will flow to a leaching catch basin. And then with a bypass pipe set above the required recharge volume and connected to the existing outfall location. So there's no new outfalls. We are treating everything to the maximum extent practicable. The leaching catch basins were sized for the required recharge volume for the new impervious area flowing to it. So there's varying diameters based on the catchment areas. What else? So we believe that since it's greater than 5,000 square feet of impervious cover, that it requires, the bylaw requires an issuance of a full stormwater permit. And we went into detail in the stormwater management plan about meeting all of the standards to the maximum extent practicable, including an alternatives analysis about other BMPs that were considered. We know leaching catch basins don't attenuate stormwater, but that is what will fit within the space available within the right of way. So we're asking for a waiver on waiver for full compliance with standards 2 and 3 with regard to the Cohasset bylaw. So that's the summary.
I'm sorry, Beth, this is Eric Eisenhower.
Sure.
Could you review what you just said about the reason you need a waiver and all that? It's still not clear to me what we're talking about.
Sure. And also, this is my first encounter with the Cohasset bylaw, so maybe I'm not saying the correct terminology. But basically, with the Wetlands Protection Act and a redevelopment project, you need to meet to the maximum extent practicable. But the bylaw requires full compliance with those portions of the standards. And so we're not able to fully comply due to the space constraints and the BMPs that we're providing.
Could you just review what the constraints are and the impact of that on preventing you from fulfilling, what you want to do here?
Absolutely. So this is a public project. The town layout line or right-of-way line is this long, short dash line. And so it's about probably 10 feet from the edge of road. So anything that we would put in needs to be within that town-owned land. And this doesn't show the topography very well, but it drops off as soon as you get past where we're putting in the sidewalk into the wetland areas here and here. So there's no space available for like an infiltration basin or a detention basin, something like that. We did also consider porous pavement sidewalks, which I don't think you get the peak flow attenuation from that either, but you could get more recharge. However, that's not something that the town is able to maintain. So that was struck as an alternative.
Would you repeat that? What I didn't catch the BMP name that you referred to.
The last one,
Yeah.
Porous pavement sidewalk.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And why did you mention that the town apparently cannot maintain porous pavement sidewalks? Is there a response to that? Why
Yeah,
We don't have the equipment to maintain that, Jay. Special equipment that's required to maintain porous pavement. It has to be vacuumed out on a regular basis.
Can someone just please blow this plan up and just take us from I've got the whole background, I get it all, get the wetland itself, but just zeroing in on the details of this. I know you mentioned one of my questions was the topography, and the topography is not laid out very well here, but just actually walk us like every 50 feet along the line here and show us how close the proposed sidewalk comes to any wetland areas, any resource areas, where the cuts are, where the fills are. I think we've all driven by this location about 1 million times, and there seem to be some ledge outcrops there. I'm curious to know how the actual construction would go around that. Is it going to be chipping away? How much, where are the cuts, where are the fills, etc.
I think we can do that by showing Beth the cross sections in the back. maybe we can walk down the plan first and then walk down the cross.
Yeah,
section
I'll do the
after.
plan first. I'll do
Yeah,
the plan first.
why don't we do that?
All right. So this is Route 3A here.
Yeah,
Okay, so the project starts just after the driveway to the gas station. And this is the back of sidewalk line. This is the curb line. And this hatched area, this is the compost filter tube for sediment control during construction. And that's at the limit of work. So this is the first wetland that we encounter. The back of sidewalk gets pretty close here. The topography is sloping down towards the wetland away from the roadway. This rock hatch is a stabilized modified rock fill slope, and we did that because we had to increase the steepness of the slope to prevent a wetland impact. So that's
The elevation really 75 feet above datum, 78 feet above datum. That seems improbable to me. I'm looking at these contours and
yeah, 7980. Well, check which datum we used. I didn't work on the survey.
there isn't in this area, there isn't a huge difference between the old datum and the new one, but it certainly couldn't account for maybe 30 or 40 feet of difference above, say, NAVD 88. So these just look like really improbable elevations for this site. Who surveyed this, or did you survey it?
It's
You did
surveyed,
survey
Tom. It may be on an assumed datum. I'm not positive.
No, it was surveyed by Taylor Associates. And we are using, by the survey, we're using NA
Maybe
1988.
88 probably,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And it really is 80 feet above the datum.
Do you know the date of that survey?
that survey, I believe it was done in, I'm just looking at the front cover, prepared in 2008.
so if you're showing the plan here, I see the edge of pavement. How wide is the actual proposed sidewalk going to be here?
It is 5 feet,
5 feet.
5 feet of bituminous asphalt pavement,
Okay, so the sidewalk is going to be asphalt.
correct.
And this is a cross section at station 2+20, which is right at the wetland here. Looking up station, so the sidewalk is on the left here. And it shows the topography a little better,
Mhm.
the wetland, and our steep 1.5 to 1 modified rock fill slope to prevent the impact there.
Is there going to be any buffer between the actual edge of current pavement now and the sidewalk?
No,
So we're installing a granite curbing at that location along the edge of the road.
So like a 6 or 8 inch curb?
6-inch curb of
Alright.
granite curbing.
Okay,
And that protects the pedestrians walking on the sidewalk.
is there any slope to the actual sidewalk, sloping it away from the wetland area?
Yes.
Yes.
It slopes on with ADA compliance at 1.5% towards the roadway.
Okay,
You mentioned ADA compliance, that's cross slope, correct?
Correct, correct.
It does not meet it in actual, what do they call, I don't know, forward slope.
It's we call it as a slope or a cross slope towards the street line.
Right, no, so cross slope, I understand it meets ADA. What about in direction of movement?
along the,
That follows the profile of the existing roadway.
yeah.
Right, so can you tell me what portion of that is actually accessible? Or which portions are not?
The intention of the sidewalk is to be accessible. We do have accessible ramps on either end. And we
Right.
do have accessible ramps at the intersection of Fair Oaks Lane. And at the
Right,
connection.
but an accessible walkway cannot exceed 5%. Can you tell me
5%,
what
right.
areas? what areas would be greater than 5%?
The charge of this project was to follow the existing contours of the roadway. And that's the direction that we received. Not to change the profile of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think this part is is steeper than 5%. However, we don't have the profile.
Okay.
We're not changing it.
Can you just take us back to the beginning there and of the down
Continue
closer to
on the walk.
3A? Yeah, and then just kind of just slowly, well, I know we get a lot of good questions here, but just kind of
Sure.
slowly walk us along here and point out.
Yep.
There you go. Thank you.
Yep, and then also the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer lines are on here. So this is all within the 50-foot buffer. So the sidewalk will continue along until we get to the next wetland area. This is also the low point in the roadway. So there's 2 catch basins, 2 leaching basins. They tie in with bypass pipes to a manhole, which is going to be a change in type because there's an existing catch basin there. So they'll put a cover on it, and then it'll follow the existing, you can see the faint gray line here, the existing outfall pipe to the wetland.
That pipe is currently in place now?
Yes.
Okay.
Similar to the other location, this is sloping down towards the wetland away from the roadway. The proposed sidewalk will slope towards the roadway so that the runoff will go into the catch basins. But behind the sidewalk will continue to slope down towards the wetland, stabilized slope here to avoid the wetland impact, sediment controls at the bottom of slope. And then I'll just note while we're here, there's no work on the other side of the road, but we are putting sediment controls there. That's why there's a line on the other side of the road.
What are you using for material and anything over the subsurface, a geofabric filter, anything on the rock fill slope, and what type of gravel or boulders are you going to be using for that?
We do put a geotextile fabric under the rock, the modified rock. It's a woven fabric. And that modified rock fill is a MassDOT standard 6 to 8 inch minus material. And that is placed on the woven fabric.
Okay.
And there's a detail in the drawings for that.
Okay.
In the areas that are not, we do not use modified rock fill, we call for lumen seed, 4 inches lumen seed to stabilize the slopes after the construction of the sidewalk.
So continuing on, we're getting past the wetland here, and this is where the ledge outcrop is that you mentioned earlier. So topography switches from sloping down towards the wetland to sloping up in this crest area here.
How do you anticipate getting into that ledge outcrop? It looks like the ledge outcrop is a little in the 100 and a little outside, but I don't know how far that. It looks like a decent length of material there. What's the construction methodology to remove that ledge?
Jason, if I may, I'm going to speak on this. I believe this is a mechanical means of removal at this point. I do not anticipate blasting for this quantity of ledge. So how this would be done is that you would strip the overburden material. There'll probably be some weathered rock that can be ripped with an excavator, and then follow it up. If there's any additional ledge removal, they'll have to bring a whole ram in there and chip away at the rock.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many cubic yards you're going to have to remove?
In this area, I do not have, I did not quantify that area of rock removal.
So continuing up the hill, there's another catch basin, another leaching basin, this ties into the existing system via this manhole that's going to connect to the existing pipe. The existing pipe in this location, this is where the existing catch basin is, that's going to be removed because it'll be under the sidewalk. The existing pipe goes across the road to another existing catch basin and then continues down the hill and continues down the hill to this catch basin and then crosses, and it goes out the same outfall as the low point location. So now we're switching again from cut to fill. And another modified rock fill slope to stay with the layout here. But now we're outside of the buffer.
So,
And then just to finish it up, the project continues till we get to Fair Oaks Way. We're putting in wheelchair ramps, crosswalks, and connecting to where the existing sidewalk is. And this is the high point in the roadway right here. So this portion of the runoff will enter into this catch basin and leaching basin.
so as a closed system, this will have one discharge point, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's where you have the two basins. Keep going to the, yeah.
Yes, at the low point.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, this is the discharge point.
And what's the static water level here, do you know?
I do not. Ed, do you remember from being out there?
I'm just wondering how much room you've got in that that basin to actually be above the water table.
Oh, yes, and that was something I forgot to mention. The town is planning to do test pits prior to ordering the leaching basins to confirm that the groundwater is low enough for these to function properly. And if not, we can go back to we'll have to figure out a different design.
But they have an overflow, right? I mean, they're not just leaching. There's also an overflow. Has any calculations been done on what that overflow what the impact it might be on the wetland? As far as contributing to it and increasing its area?
Increasing the wetlands area?
Yeah. I mean, you're collecting additional runoff and you're putting it directly into the wetland, which is on a private property. I'm just wondering what's going to be the long-term effect of that wetland.
Yep, I'm just looking at the table in the stormwater report that lists the runoff volumes. That's really the level that we went to so far.
Okay.
Yeah, it does show, it's basically it shows slight increases in volumes.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like there's standing water on at least the south side of this. So presumably that would be your the level of your water table there. So
yeah,
it looks like you might have on the south side. Scoot up.
It's standing on the north as well, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Yeah. I mean, I can't see that on there, but I can clearly see it on the south side on the air photo. So that's your static water level, and it's at what I'm having a hard time reading the faint topographic lines.
Sorry.
So. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, the elevations aren't even.
No.
Have you looked at the number of trees? Our bylaw recognizes trees 12 inches and greater. Have you looked at the number of trees that would be removed in this project?
We did not do a tree count for removal. Most of the area is, I want to call scrub brush, poison ivy, and that type of plantings. Though that material will have to be removed, but as part of this project, we did not particularly look into a tree count.
Okay, that's gonna be necessary. I counted at least 40 trees that'll be removed on this project. I mean, it might be 38, but there's quite a few trees based on the slopes that are shown on the plan. Can you, I noticed on your drawing, there's a note somewhere that says 10-foot 7-inch as critical road width, which I assume is the minimal area along this road. Can you, I don't remember what section it showed it in,
Oh,
but
There it is.
yeah.
10.7, critical cross section 7 plus 50.
So can you tell us a little bit about road width and you know, just the overall driving lane here? Because I've stood on the side of this road, and even 5 feet off the edge of the road it does not feel comfortable. I'm just wondering about this 10-foot 7 width of lanes and the way cars drive this road.
So this 10.7 is not a lane width. It's just the distance from the baseline to the curb line. And if you look at 7 plus 50, which is right.
I'm sorry, it said on that cross section center line.
Baseline. Baseline is not necessarily the center line. It's just a construction baseline. Yeah, you can see that it's a little bit offset from the center.
Okay.
It's probably 12-foot lane. I don't know though.
Well, parts of it are 12, parts are 15. I saw that 10.7. I assume that was the center line. I apologize. But can you tell us a little bit about a 12-inch drive lane on a road like this? Is that normal? Is it acceptable? What's
Yes.
industry standard?
It's normal and acceptable.
That's what we did down at the town common on Main Street.
Yeah, but you also reduced the speed to 25 miles an hour. So
Yeah, and it's because of the parking too there. It's the parking on the side of the road.
What's going to be on the wetland side of the actual sidewalk? Is there going to be a curb there? Or is it just flow right down into any buffer or anything on the wetland side of the sidewalk?
So we try to put in this is a cross section of the proposed sidewalk. We try to put in a 2-foot level area before we start sloping down. In this case, like this one says 1.5, but that's just because we were trying to avoid the impact to the wetland.
Is that just a grass area? It's grass and seed, loam seed? What's that material going to be of?
That would be lumen seed in that area. The level area would be lumen seed. And you would have that same level area lumen seed when you have a transition 2-to-1 slope. You would use lumen seed for that too.
So for all intents and purposes, you're coming 7.5 feet roughly, almost 8 feet off the edge of current pavement now.
Yeah.
Safe to assume that any vegetation, tree, et cetera, is clearly going to be removed 8 feet off the edge of the roadway.
Correct.
Mark, were we at some points the sidewalk comes out onto the existing paved surface?
Correct. Some of the side, in some of the locations, the edge of the pavement is not perfectly straight. And it does feather back in and out. And we straighten out the curbing or the sidewalk and the edge of the road. So in some cases, it may be 2 feet into the paved surfaces or paved existing roadway or a foot into the existing roadway in some cases. So Beth, let's take a look at the cross sections now, 0 to and the back of the plan package. And you can, I think this may explain some of the areas between station, say 2 and 7 or so. Because we're meeting some of the sections are where, unless we're right at an outfall or an inlet, outfall, we're transitioning pretty closely to existing grade There is a little bit of sloping back after the sidewalk that we plan on revegetating with lumen seed. So let's just take a walk down station 2 to 3.
Starting
Yeah.
at the beginning of the project,
Yeah.
looking east. So on the left side of the road is all the wetland areas and the proposed sidewalk. This dashed line is the existing ground, and the darker straight lines are the proposed sidewalk and the proposed grading that has to happen to tie into the existing. So this is where we're coming up to that first wetland area. And then past it. Past it. And this is the second wetland area. There's a little bit more of a buffer here.
Have you figured out how much fill is going to need to be brought in for the fill areas along the proposed sidewalk?
We did not do a quantity takeoff on this project, as the town is going to construct this project with their on-call contractors for either sidewalk construction and paving contractors. So that was not the charge of the project, or the direction from the town was to do a quantity takeoff at this time. So let's keep on, Beth, if there's no other questions about that, let's just keep on going down. We're outside, I believe we're outside the buffer zone now. With
Yep, this is outside the buffer zone. Heading up towards Fair Oaks Lane.
And there will be a cut section, as you can see, as you get closer to Fair Oaks.
What is the, if this project were to be approved, what is the estimated time frame on getting a shovel in the ground here?
Goal is to do the drainage construction this fall. Let any settlement happen over the winter, and then do the paving and the sidewalks in the spring.
Is there any federal money tied up in this, federal estate money?
The money used for this is the money from the Avalon development. So there's a set aside specifically targeted to this sidewalk section. And that's the money that's being used to do this project. We brought it forth now because we've been up and down Sawyer Street. It needs to be paved due to the gas company project. So the gas company had a set aside for fixing of the trench. So we're using that money to do the final course on the street itself.
So Jason, I'm actually a great proponent of sidewalks in municipalities. I think they're very important. On a street like this, it's very much important because the traffic travels fast. It comes over the crest of the hill. I'm not a sidewalk expert. I'm concerned about this sidewalk, even with its with the addition of a curb. But purely from the Conservation Commission, the survey is very out of date. Plans require a survey within 3 years. I know from being out on the site that there are areas that are far more depressed than the survey shows. And I wonder in those areas whether or not the slope stabilization can actually fit between the new elevation and the town property line. So I think it's very important that survey gets updated. I think it needs to have the trees on it because I think that's it's a critical factor. It gets a lot of attention around town. You know, the butters get up in arms when a private person does it, and if the town does it, you know, it doesn't look good to any of us. I think, you know, I appreciate the fact that this is standard practice for most roadway layout. But you are working with a very constrained site. And the plan itself does not clearly identify the grading and what the extent of it's going to be. Working at 20 scale, I realize it's quite a tight site to be drawing all the contours in there. But in essence, your sections are suggesting that everything fits. But it's concerning that, you know, there is no kind of final layout. It's all diagrammatic to a point. I think that there are, you know, I'm sorry the town doesn't have the maintenance equipment for a permeable pavement. I don't know what the cost of that would be. I have to wonder if there aren't other alternatives. You know, boardwalk style when you get down to the wetlands, things like that. I understand that the town has kind of committed to asphalt, but it doesn't make the review very easy to say, well, this is the way it has to be. So I think it's worth investigating further if there are other options. As I mentioned, the safety factor obviously is the greatest concern here, both on the road side and on kind of the steep slope side. So I think a little more attention needs to be given there. I mean, we certainly don't want people getting hurt on the non-road side as well. I think, I mean, I like I said, I'm in favor of putting sidewalks in, but I'm not in favor of taking shortcuts to get us there. I would certainly need to talk to appointed counsel so that we can get a better understanding of our position on this as well, and whether we actually have the you know, whether or not this meets the kind of the criteria to allow us to overstep the bylaws. I mean, there are provisions, but I'm not sure that this meets those. So,
Beth, could you go back to the plan map and show us all of the infiltration structures where they're located?
The plan map. Oh, the map on the front page.
No, that doesn't show anything really.
Yeah, it doesn't. That's why I was confused.
There you go. Yeah. That.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Okay. So the ones with the L are the leaching basins.
Yeah.
So there's two here at the low point. These are repeats. Then there's one here at the next catch basin. And the final one is here at the last catch basin.
So there's 6 of them, is that correct?
or
Four.
4, okay.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I see, okay. I think after looking at the cross sections, doesn't look like you have a lot of room for infiltration at the low point there. The cross sections seem to show it. You got about 2 feet. And you're collecting water from pretty high up the hill and sending it in this closed system down to be discharged. I can't tell whether the water from the higher elevations and those particularly the one to the north, be the northeast, I guess, up the hill towards town, whether that one goes through a leaching station and then goes through a second leaching station down at the bottom of the hill. Is that accurate? And
Oh,
just a little-
Going the other way. Uh,
you know, if
oh, it does not. It does not.
If you showed the pipe network here, it might be a little easier to understand, but
It is on there.
yeah, it's faint.
It's existing. It's existing, so it's gray.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so the leaching basin, this leaching basin only treats what's coming into this catch basin. And then the bypass goes into the pipe. The pipes continue along.
Okay.
And then at the low point, each catch basin is connected to a leaching basin with a bypass, but the trunk line is here. That does not flow through the leaching basins. Leaching basins are offline.
I see. So I guess my concern is that you would want, I would think you'd want to treat as much of the water before it got to the low point as possible. But you've got them pretty high up the hill, and you're not going to get much infiltration, I wouldn't think, at this low point, but you might get considerably more infiltration if you're a little bit higher up the hill, farther away from the wetland.
Yeah. So two things. One, these are only treating what's coming into the low point catch basins.
Right.
But I definitely hear your point. And, you know, if we do the test pits and we learn that the groundwater is too high, I think there is flexibility to be able to move these somewhere else. It would require a little more probably trenching and drainage pipe to try to get the water to go there. But I think it's definitely possible and something to look at.
Yeah, I mean, if for example, you had an infiltration chamber somewhere just a little bit higher up the hill, it doesn't have to be much above the wetland. You're going to, for every foot you go up, you're probably going to gain maybe not a foot of separation between your static water level and the overflow from your chamber. It just seems like you're going to get better infiltration as you go uphill here. The less water you send to infiltrate down at that bottom, those bottom infiltration chambers, the better. Or it gets down to the bottom of the hill, it doesn't go through those infiltration chambers. It just gets discharged directly to the wetland. So it just seems that it would be desirable to reduce the amount of discharge here as much as you possibly can. And I don't see how this system actually optimizes that.
I guess part of this is all of it right now is going straight into the wetlands, untreated, straight into the wetlands. We're adding leaching basins to help improve the situation that's currently just run off straight into the wetlands, both from the catch basins and from the edge of pavement. So anything we do here is an improvement over existing conditions.
Sure, I understand that. It just again, the leaching basins presumably are what you're relying upon for water quality to reduce your total suspended solids and perhaps some of the other issues that you might want to prevent from going directly into the wetland. But it seems to me that you also, if you can infiltrate more higher up the hill, you might be putting less stuff into not less water. Well, yeah, even less water. Eventually, of course, it'll all reach the wetland, as you point out, Jason. It's going downhill. But if you're infiltrating higher on the hill, it's not only going to go through the infiltration chamber, it's going to get into the unsaturated zone and then into the saturated zone and ultimately down to that open water. So you've got a longer flow path through permeable material before you actually get to open water. And I would think that would be desirable, both from a water quality standpoint and also for flow rates.
I would agree with Tom. I think you're making some pretty good points there. Beth, could you describe, not to change it a little bit, but could you just describe the functionality for the commission of these leaching basins and depths needed, et cetera, to above the groundwater table? I know you have a schematic there, so thank you for pulling that up.
Yep. Okay, so the leaching manhole. So the inlet pipe would come from the deep sump catch basin. These are perforated concrete structures underground so the water can infiltrate, generally needing 2-foot separation to groundwater at a minimum. And then the outlet pipe is at the same elevation as the inlet pipe. That's the bypass that goes for larger storms.
And those are, is that 42 inch, how deep are those?
Right now we're showing a 48, okay, 48 minus 12. So it's a 3-foot sump here
Okay.
with
So, yeah.
various diameters based on the required recharge volume.
And you're gonna need an 2 feet clearance to groundwater as well. So you're looking at like 6 feet.
Yeah, although, no, I'm just thinking,
What's missing here is you don't
even if your
have a
groundwater
dimension.
is,
You don't have a dimension from your finished grade to your inlet pipe. That looks like it's got to be more than 12 inches. So you're using up some space there too.
yeah, and even if your groundwater is here, you're still getting some infiltration through the sides until the groundwater.
What if the groundwater is at 24 inches? It's going to be right about the, just.
That's what we're going to find out when we do the test pits.
Right about at your inlet pipe. Well, as I pointed out before, that open water, that is your groundwater level.
Right, and we don't have that on the survey right now, so I think a test pit would be definitive.
It very well could be that the infiltration is going to be going in the wrong direction here. It's going to be coming into your,
Yes,
into your.
it could be, which is why we're going to revisit the design, confirm it. Your points are all well taken though, Tom. I agree with what you were saying.
So I think it's important to say that the leaching basins were proposed to help the situation, not to capture all the water, but to help the situation and also put the deep sump catch basins in place as new ones, which will help.
Well, they won't work if they're below the water table.
Agreed.
Mhm.
How soon could test pits be performed in order to find out the groundwater table, et cetera, out on the site?
We could probably do it within a week.
Obviously, the critical ones are the ones right that are closest to the low point there. They're at the low point. The others may not matter quite so much.
It sounds like test pits are inevitable. I'd encourage the town to try and get that done as soon as possible so that we could get to figure out whether or not these leaching basins are an effective mechanism. And if not, to explore other alternatives.
But I mean, part of the goal would be, as the town doing what's right in theory, would be we go out and as we're trying to construct, we do the test pits while we're doing it because it's a cost to the town, which is all the dollars, tax dollars. So we're trying to save the tax dollars by trying to do it during construction versus pre-construction. And I know there have been approvals in the past by conservation to allow test pitting during construction and not prior to.
So this would be, so during construction would be an alpha test, huh? So what happens if it fails? You have to redesign the whole system after you've already started construction. That doesn't sound like it's going to save any money.
I think we're all trying to save the town a little bit of money here. I think that having someone to go out and dig a couple test pits on the side of the road here could be done in like a half a day. It's not a week-long thing. Could probably be done within, call it a day's worth of work. It's a drop in the bucket as far as cost goes compared to, I can imagine what the town has already spent on engineering fees in this evening's costs. So I don't see on any construction project, going out and doing a couple of test pits, being a very expensive cost here.
Okay.
And
Jason,
I'd
Eric,
rather have it done sooner than later.
Jason, I have a question for you. I'm not an engineer, and this is a very engineering-oriented discussion, so please excuse me if I don't seem to be up to date with what you're doing, but I've lived here for almost 15 years, and I've never seen water cross the road in the area that you're talking about. There is substantial wetlands with very, very large capability of absorbing almost any rainfall that comes down to the left and the right. The right as you're going toward Route 3A behind the gasoline station. Why are we worrying about these facilities to absorb water? The land there's got a tremendous capability in its wetland capability of absorbing and processing most any water that Cohasset puts to it down there. Like I said, I've never seen any water collecting on the road there. And I'm missing why we're going to all this engineering right now. Could you maybe address that for a second?
I would agree with you, and I would leave that to Ed to discuss, but that's the point. All the water is already going there. We're only infiltrating the sidewalk portion. So the water that we're trying to deal with is the sidewalk water, but even that water would probably go into the wetland and be absorbed and go down James Brook.
The wetlands are of great size. They absorb a vast quantity of water in the worst storms we have in Cohasset. I just think a lot of what's going on here will keep the engineers happy, but the question to me is whether it's really necessary or not. But if someone technically can maybe edify me that so I can understand better what we're doing, but it occurs to me that we're trying to solve technically a problem that doesn't exist.
I would agree with you, Eric.
Well, I think
I'd like to disagree with it. I think that right now, the water, a good portion of the water that's on that site actually goes back into the adjacent properties and it makes its way down to the wetland. But now what we're talking about is taking a greater amount of water, dropping it in the road, sending it down the road, and then going directly into the wetland with no chance of infiltration and very little chance of any kind of purification. I think one of the questions I would ask is, why is it all dumping into the road? Why aren't portions of it dumping back to an area well outside the buffer zone? I think that a lot of restrictions have been put on this project. I think the engineers have responded to what the town's asking, but I think there's more work to be done. That's my feeling.
Eric, one of the things that these chambers also do is they trap suspended solids, and also there's a certain amount of digestion that goes on there, if I'm not mistaken, to reduce nitrate and phosphate. So it's not how much water is coming down, is whether these structures that are designed to do at least some purification are going to work or not. And I think you probably agree that we would rather put water that's been at least partially treated into that wetland than stuff that's just coming straight off the road. That's got.
I would certainly agree with that, Tom.
Yeah,
I would certainly agree.
And I think that's my point. If you can't infiltrate, if you're actually getting swamp water flowing into your infiltration chambers, there's no way you're going to purify any water here that comes off the road.
We are adding quite a few deep sump catch basins, which will help reduce the total suspended solids though.
Right.
So the idea is you remove the suspended solids in the deep sump catch basins before it goes into the leaching basins.
So where are those? Could you show, Beth, could you show us where those
So every leaching basin has a deep sump catch basin first as pretreatment.
Okay.
The grate here is a deep sump catch basin.
Okay, could you show us a diagram of what they look like?
Do we have that? Yes. So this is the catch basin with the 48-inch sump and the hood section.
So if the water table were higher than that intake, then you're going to get swamp water flowing into your.
No, this is
Or is
a
it a-
pipe
is-
that
is there-
continues.
Is
This
there
is
a
all
water-
closed.
It's all closed, so there's.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
only
The
400
water only comes in through the grate on the surface.
Oh, okay. But it can't flow out if the water level in the next structure is higher.
Well, you can, that's what the bypass pipe is for.
Right.
And if, you know, it's clogged for some reason, that the water can get through,
Or it's underwater,
or it's
below
underwater.
the water table.
Yes.
But in the end, it would flow out the outfall that, to Eric's
Yes.
point, has never been clogged up and backed up on Sawyer Street.
Right.
I mean, I
Is-
would
is-
like to know, in the current situation, doing nothing, whether we have a water quality problem in the wetlands there.
Well, we're adding impervious area, so that's really what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
You're what?
We're adding impervious area because we're adding a sidewalk. So we're changing the existing condition, and that's what we're trying to mitigate.
We can spend a lot of money trying to
Drinking
solve a
water.
problem that may not exist. It's a very verdant, healthy wetland there. All right. No one's, it doesn't smell. No one's ever complained of it. And now all of a sudden we have a water quality problem that we have to deal with. And I know we have incremental water going there from a small bit of pavement, but this is a healthy wetland right now. And I just have problems understanding what problem it is that we're trying to solve without even measuring the quality of the water or what we expect to be the decrease in the quality of the water, which is, I think, your argument, Beth.
I don't know how to respond.
I have a question. It seems like, and forgive me, this is my very first meeting, so, but it seems like the question is, which you guys are gonna solve with test bits, what would you do if the water level does get into these leaching manholes, right? So what, if you dig a test bit and the water level's high enough that it would backfill into this leaching manhole, what would you do instead, I guess? Do you have a plan for what you do, or you were just going to figure that out if the water level was that high?
Well, so the plan is that we would look at moving the leaching basins, like Tom mentioned, to an area that does not have such high groundwater. But that's going to involve more piping, more cost, which is why it's not proposed right now. We can also look at, I heard someone mention, why aren't the sidewalks sloped away from the road? We can certainly look at that. As long as the cross slope isn't greater than that 1.5%, it doesn't necessarily have to slope towards the roadway. So we can look at areas where it can drain to the pervious cover and become disconnected and impervious. So those are the things we would look at. We've already done the alternatives analysis for other types of BMPs, so I don't see that happening again. We still have the same constraints. So if the groundwater is higher than we anticipate, then we'll have to move or reduce the number of leaching catch basins.
The other alternative is to put a different type of structure, smaller structure, shallower, and teaming them together. That's another alternative that we can take a look at. But I think it's important to understand that leaching basins are proposed to help the situation. And recognizing that there's additional flow generated from the sidewalk and treating the water. The goal of the project is to treat the water in good faith, to do as much as possible with the restrictions that we have on the project, or the constraints on the project, meaning land, the limited amount of land that we have to work with, the roadways not moving, and where the project is only involving installing a sidewalk in there, and for the idea of pedestrian safety. Now, the other, Beth mentioned, and some other folks have mentioned, sloping the sidewalk in the area of the buffer zone in the direction towards the wetlands as an option. would that be favorable in the commission's mind? As opposed to, as a present condition of sloping the road, or the sidewalk towards, to the roadway. So what is the preference of the commission at this time? Because I think we can do either or.
Well, my personal feeling on that is, I don't know how much runoff you're gonna get from the 5-foot sidewalk. And I only say that because if it was in a complete open space, clearly there would be a lot of runoff there, right? But you've got so much vegetation and trees in the area now, even though a lot of the trees will be removed, the canopy from other trees would probably capture a lot of the existing rainfall, etc. So I think that certainly having a slope going towards the wetland would allow the water to enter into a buffer prior to even getting down into the wetland if it made it all the way down there. Going the other way, any water that's captured on the sidewalk, if it's a impervious surface, is just gonna flow onto the roadway and just gonna put more water onto the roadway and just put more volume into those leaching basins, etc. I mean, I know Eric's had a good point here about, what we have now is an existing area where there's currently the runoff from the road infiltrates goes off the side of the road and infiltrates, and there's a current buffer there, but we're removing that buffer. We're taking that buffer away and now just running all the water down to the bottom of the hill, creating basically a point source discharge. So I think, in my view, it sounds like test pits are where we're kind of hung up on. And I would encourage the town or the applicant to get out and do some test pits at its earliest convenience, not to wait until the project is halfway through or in the middle of it to say, oh, wait a minute, pump the brakes. We've got to do a whole complete redesign here. And now you're talking about cost going through the roof. So having test pits being done, figuring out where the water table is, and then if in fact these leaching basins are the proper mechanism in place, or we have to redesign them now rather than redesign it halfway through the project, would be my recommendation. And I would encourage the town to go out there and do the test pits as soon as possible. And then we can, continue the hearing and come back. We've already been at this an hour and a half now. So I don't see us getting forward, personally, moving it forward without having some test pits being done.
Jay, we need variances for the test pits to dig into the wetland area?
No, I don't think you're actually going into the wetland, on many
Oh, they're in the
projects.
buffer.
Yeah.
They're
You're
gonna be in the
bu-
buffer.
I mean, I don't know. It's pretty, I don't know if you need a variance to do that. I think to do a couple test pits.
Yeah, test pits are typically exempt, right? Or is it
Yeah.
just by law?
I think
Yeah,
you're
it's
fine
the
doing it.
bylaw.
Oh, okay.
So I would think, technically, you would need a variance from the bylaw or even test pits.
I mean, if you look at the wetlands map, you'll see on the shopping center side, on the map, the wetland is right up against the side of the road, probably no more than 2 feet in. So you'd be digging in there. On the other side, on the gasoline station side, the wetland's a bit further back, probably 10 or 15 feet. So you could do a test pit in there, probably without violating, all right, the wetland area. But on the shopping center side, I don't see how you can do it.
There's no work on the shopping center side, so we would not be doing a test pit over there.
Okay. All right.
So Brian, are you in agreement that we'll continue this hearing and you'll look into doing test pits? Sorry,
You mean Jason?
Jason, I apologize.
I guess if you're gonna make it continue, then yes, I will continue.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said, if I can't get a yes vote, then yes, I want a continuance.
Well, okay.
I mean-
Aren't there,
Did I miss something? I thought we also wanted to look at updating the survey, indicating the number of trees to be removed.
Well, I think these are
Indicating
all very
grading.
important. I believe these are all very important things to do.
Yeah. So, while it might delay to come back again, because you have to do the test bits, those are other outstanding issues as well.
So you want a whole new survey done of this
Well,
project?
And we have to have an updated survey, something that's not beyond 3 years old.
I don't think there's been, I don't
Suggestion.
think there's been a significant change out there since. that
Well,
was-
There might not be, but
I have a suggestion. We could field check the surface features of the survey, and then we can check and supplement with LiDAR elevation data, because I know there were concerns about the elevations out there. The LiDAR is very accurate, so we could do that.
I've just been looking at that, and it does correspond pretty well to your map.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, the one thing I noticed is that in the area of the Greatest Depression, I feel confident in saying that the land is at least 6 to 8 feet below the existing condition. And based on your survey, there's no place where it's more than 4. And so, I'm just concerned that, you're trying to squeeze in between the town land and whatever other features. And I just think that,
This also only goes to the wetland line. It could continue down.
I don't even think it was in that area. I think it was further up the hill where it was,
Oh, okay.
where it fell off quite quickly. So. All right.
So you want the plan updated? Is it okay to just check it? Is it okay to check the grades, or do you want a whole new survey done?
I'd be happy with just a few spot checks.
Yeah, I think if someone goes out there and looks at the kind of the critical areas, the areas where it drops off the furthest and where it rises the furthest. I think that the property owner closest to Fair Oaks, I think he's got fairly large hemlock trees which are not represented accurately on the drawing. And I believe that your slope is going to probably impact his buffer hedge when this work gets done. And granted that's well outside the jurisdiction of the project, but it's, I mean, the worst thing this town can do is a project that offends its citizens. I mean, people would rather pay taxes than have their hemlocks cut down. So I think it's important that wherever there's a question as to whether or not you can actually fit this remediation within the town property, I think it's important to check your grades.
As well as you want all trees over what size within the buffer zone marked?
Well, my view on the trees is that it's clearly that it's clear that you're going to have 5 feet of disturbance for the sidewalk and an additional 1 to 2 feet of buffer. So it's assumed that the first 7 feet throughout the entire project are going to be clear cut. My take on the tree removal is if there are any trees that are going to be removed outside of that 7-foot corridor for the sidewalk, I would like them marked on the plan as to be removed. That's my take on it.
But Jay, it's a little simplification because the construction extends wherever they have to modify the slope to get back to either their 1 to 1 or 1.5 to 1. And any place that they modify that slope is also going to result in having to remove trees.
Well, that's what I'm saying, outside of the 7 feet.
So that's marked on the plan as the compost filter tube line. That's the limit of work. That's the limit of disturbance. And there is an area, an existing area beyond the edge of pavement that's not vegetated. It's just grassy. So we're not really removing a 7-foot width of tree.
Yeah.
But we can go out and identify those trees with a GPS and add them to the
But
plan.
I mean, I'm gonna take Jay says we don't need to, so do we need to show every single tree on the plan that's gonna be removed or not? Or is it just simple enough to say anything within 7 feet of the road will be removed?
No, it's not simple enough to just say that. They should be identified on the plan. It's what the bylaws require. And it's the record for this project moving forward.
Okay. Within the 100-foot buffer.
No, because your project extends up to Fair Oaks Lane, you need to show the trees that are being impacted by this project.
Mhm.
And if the slope retention goes right down to your silt sock, but there's a tree immediately adjacent, chances are you're going to disturb that tree and it's probably going to die as well. So, I mean, a critical look has to be given to this project. Okay. Our next, let's see, where are we today? We're at the 23rd. I don't have a date. Someone have the next date of
It's October 7th.
October 7th? Okay. We're going to continue this hearing until October 7th. If you can get the work done, great. If not, let Charlotte know and we can push it out again.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
Our second hearing this evening is a RDA 21-11 for 210 Lambert Lane. I'd like to read it into the record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicant Courtney McHale for the request for determination of applicability 21-11 to construct an 18-foot by 24-foot barn with a concrete foundation in an existing landscape area for property at 210 Lambert. I think it's Lambert Lane, but it says Lambert Avenue. It's Lambert Lane. Okay. I'm not, Charlotte, do you know who we need to bring up for this?
Yes, we have Gary James and Courtney Ness.
Oh, there I go. I can see myself. There we go. If you want,
Thank you for your patience.
that's all right. That's all right. I've seen other. I've been involved in other projects that took longer. Yes. If you want to share a screen, Charlotte, and I'll put up the drawing. All right. There we go. All right, there we go. The proposal, this is a proposed, as you read in the advertisement, it's a proposed bond for the existing dwelling at 210 Lambert's Lane. 210 Lambert's Lane is actually the last house on the left, right at the end of the pavement. The end of the pavement on Lambert's Lane is actually right here. And beyond that, Lambert's Lane is really not developed. It's just being maintained currently as a lawn area. The flags were established by Paul Shea, I believe, back in August. So I believe everyone, I'm not sure if Charlotte's been out to be able to look at them, to be able to review them. But, oh, I apologize. I have the wrong one.
Yes.
Yeah, I was about to say, Gary, do you want me to, I have a different plan that was the one that was.
I have the wrong plan. I apologize. I'm looking because I've moved the bond. I have moved it. Oh, hold on a sec. Let's see what I can, hold on. I apologize. Give me a second.
Gary, would you like me to pull it up or?
If you have it there, Charlotte,
Okay.
yeah, because I'm gonna have to transfer it over to the laptop from my main computer. Oh, there we go.
All right.
Oh, there we go. That's much better.
better.
That's much better.
Yes,
As you
it
can-
is.
Yeah. As you can see, the only proposed activity that we are proposed that is proposed on this is the barn itself. It'll be 18 by 24. It comes in as a kit. It's actually a kit that the applicant has actually bought off of the Amish. It will be located 55 feet off of the edge of the wetland, which is that flag that's right there on the back, which is kind of a point.
Mhm.
We are proposing to utilize an 8-inch mulch log around the outside. The area where the barn is going to be located right now is currently lawn or currently landscaping associated with the existing single-family dwelling that is located to the left of the proposed barn. The remainder of the site, there's quite a bit of ledge. There's a big ledge outcrop to the left of it between the house and the barn. There's another ledge outcrop on the right that is between this lot and the adjacent lot. There's a gap in the wall. If you just move it up, Charlotte, for me. There's a gap in the wall where we can come up the other way. There's a gap in the wall where we can get vehicle access back into the barn area. The country club is actually on the other side of Lambert's Lane. Is the abutter on the other side? No, the other way, Charlotte.
Sorry, where am I going?
Just lift the image up. There you go. Okay, there you go. As you can see, what we are proposing too is that for the access way to get into it from the end of the pavement at the end of Lambert's Lane, we are proposing to put a mulch log along that edge and actually provide a tracking pad right at the end, so that when we do come in, whatever damage we, to try and prevent any tracking back onto Lambert's Lane. But right now it's currently vegetated. We would come through that gap. And as I stated, it's pretty simple. I mean, once we get, there's not a lot of material that's going to be coming out of this barn. Coming out of the excavation associated with the foundation because of the presence of ledge. I would only anticipate that we're going to get down a couple of feet, 2 to 3 feet max before we hit ledge in any of that lawn area. So in and of itself, any of the material coming out of the excavation will be hauled away. The only thing that will remain on site will be whatever topsoil is coming out, which shouldn't be very much. Should be, less than 20 yards. Probably won't even amount to even a change in the contours as we've proposed them. Other than that, as I would anticipate, and what we're asking for is an approval. I think it's a category 4, which is that it is subject, but you can approve the RDA with conditions associated with the mulch log and. Obviously, an initial inspection at the time of the start of construction to make sure that the erosion control measures have been implemented. And with that, I'm going to pass this back to the chair.
Charlotte, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I walked the site with Courtney and took some photos. If anyone would like me to pull those up. And we did talk about, the location to the 50-foot buffer and, explain the mulch log that would go around it. Also, Chris, there is a question in the chat. I'm not sure if you would like to read that now or at some point.
Yeah, well, I'll answer it. It's been answered, but I'll read it into the record shortly.
Okay.
So, Gary, you're showing a sill elevation of 54.5, which is almost right at the current grade, just slightly above it. But you're showing ramps and stairs. Can you explain that?
Well, when you put the wooden deck on top of it, you'll raise, the floor elevation will be up at 55.5. So, you'll have to get up into the doors. The doors are going to be in the front.
Yep.
So all I was proposing was a wooden ramp. My gut is that you probably end up with about 18 inches there to be able to get up into the first floor.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Gary, you said that there is going to be, this is a kit. Is this going to sit on sonotubes, going to sit on a slab? What's the?
No, it's actually going to be a poured foundation.
Okay, so you're going to excavate and for a poured foundation.
Yeah, but it'll be sitting right on the ledge. I would anticipate the ledge is within 2 to 3 feet.
So you're going to have to pin that to the ledge.
Yeah, we'll pin it to the ledge.
How many yards of concrete do you anticipate to pour that slab?
About 9 to 10. That's about, well, it won't be a slab there. It'll just be the walls. In other words, there'll be a wooden deck sitting on top of the walls.
Well, you said you had a slab for the
No, a wooden deck. A wooden deck is the floor of the barn. It's unheated. There are no utilities. The only utility that's going to be coming out to this is going to be electrical. So we'll just bring the electrical down right from the existing house.
So is it going to be a slab floor?
No, it's going to be a wooden deck.
So the concrete is for footings.
Well, it'll be a footing, yes, but it'll be a poured wall all the way around. So there'll be a crawl space underneath the floor.
Okay.
A concrete stem wall, basically.
Yeah, so like a 18-inch wall.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's what I was getting at. And so with 9 yards, you'll be able to do that with one truck.
One truck, one load.
The question that was written into here was from John and April Durant at 61 Surrey Drive. And their question was, will this involve removal of any trees? All access through Lampert Lane. And Courtney answered no trees will be removed. And yes, everything's coming from Lampert Lane. She also added to Gary's comment, there will be no side stairs.
Okay, well, the kit did show a passage door over there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we won't commit to that then.
We won't commit to that. Man.
Okay. There was also a request by the same folks as to whether or not you could share photos. Do you have any photos of the barn?
I don't. Courtney, do you have any?
Yeah, the barn, I do not, but we took photos of the site in the project area.
Yeah, I think they were looking to see what the barn looked like, but.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Chris, I thought the opposite. I thought they were looking for the site photos that Charlotte had indicated she had taken.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
Up here, they.
Site
Okay.
photos, please.
Oh, there you go, site photos.
So this is the general area of the proposed location for the barn. We did note that a lot of the grass is patchy, it's dirt in this section of the yard. sorry, it might, oh no, I hope it, are all of them gonna open? But basically, sorry, I'm not sure why a lot of these photos are not loading, but we took several photos of, noting the trees that were around, which, according to the plan are not coming down. And as Courtney responded, are not coming down. We took photos. I'm sorry, these are not showing, but I just have the first one. Not sure why they're being slow, but basically, the area it's already lawn. And so a lot of it is, this dirt. And then again, none of these trees are coming down with the proposed project. We did take some photos from the deck to show the ledges on either side of the project area. So we're not going near those ledges where the barn's gonna go. And then looking out from this spot, again, I'm sorry, the photos are not loading, but if you look out from this location, the yard after this area is mostly grass. So this was the area in the back of the yard that is patchy and just it's dirt and some, small areas of grass.
Charlotte,
And then in the background.
Can you try to download one of those photos just to give
Sure, I can try. Yeah.
the participant a little more view?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not sure why some of them are loading. It might be because it's a newer iPhone. Maybe this computer can't download.
It's telling you have 41 minutes left. I don't think we're going to wait for 41 minutes.
Oh, there we go. Some of them are loading. So
Oh,
this is the back area, and as you can see, it's we have the woods in the background, the wetlands. There's some markers there for reference. It might just take a while for these to load, but yeah, I'm not sure how long we want to wait for them.
Charlotte, sometimes if you hit the reload button,
Mm-hmm.
that can't preview right now goes away and
Mm-hmm.
and it'll show them.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to try and share my screen real quick if that's helpful.
It'd be great if you have those photos available.
Let me know when you can see my screen.
Thank you, Jay.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
that's perfect.
I'll advance them and see if they move here. If you wanted to, sometimes it's the OneDrive. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think it's just the OneDrive being slow. So yeah, we were taking several photos of kind of just the, the background of what's near the project area. Some of these other photos this is the back, again, at the end of the property. We're not going in this area, but this is where the wetlands are at the back of the property. And then we did take photos of, this is from the left-hand side, looking out at the project area. And then
Can you
again, the
hold there,
trees.
please? Gary,
Yeah.
Gary, what is that stake with the pink ribbon?
That was just a survey stake. That was one of his control points when he located the wetland. That's somewhere in the range of about 45, 46 feet off of the wetlands.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So
Gary.
is the barn going up on top of this swing set area?
Yeah, Justin, if you look at that tree is actually on the site plan. So you get a good relationship in terms of just where the barn is going to go when you look back at the site plan.
Okay.
But I believe I believe the lot, the proposed barn lines up pretty good with that. The back of the barn lines up pretty good with that tree.
And this is where the barn's going to go, and this would be the access coming through here.
There's the access coming through, yes, right through the coming right on. Yeah.
Okay. I'll stop
Yeah.
sharing now.
Thank you. Yeah, that last photo was from the deck area looking down.
And what's the height of this barn?
It's just a single story.
Okay. Commissioners, does anyone have any other questions? The applicant,
Yes, I do.
please, Kathy.
Gary or Charlotte, could you tell me what this barn is being used for? I didn't see it listed anywhere in the documents.
Courtney, I'll let you respond. It's,
Courtney.
Sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm live. It's just extra living space. There's
Okay.
no, not really living space, but like recreational, just to go sit outside.
Okay, so there won't be any animals living there?
No,
Horses?
nope,
Okay,
nope.
Okay.
It's gonna be, no.
No
Okay.
chickens.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Charlotte, I appreciated the summary with the comments that you added with the pictures. It was very helpful for me.
Thank you. I'm sorry they didn't load on my end, but thank you, Jay, for pulling them up.
Yeah, no, it
worry.
happens to me all the time as well. I'm glad we're not looking at the first plan with the barn and the 50-foot buffer. That's my comment.
That's
Yeah,
a relief.
that's good.
There's another comment in the chat box, Mr. Chair.
No, I think it's been already,
But there's a question from the from I think one of the abutters. Will it have lighting? And while I do appreciate I think the commission appreciates the responses from the applicant. Just for a protocol, the commission will address those comments to the applicant. We can just answer them live. So the question is, will the barn have any lighting?
and the answer is it will have electricity, yes.
Will have electricity. Would the applicant state whether or not there will be lights on the barn?
There will be outside, like outside lights that, would be equivalent to a residential house. And then lights inside. And then, landscape lighting down to the barn.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if no one has any other comments, I'll entertain a motion.
No further comment. Jay Pimpari will make a motion to issue a -2 determination for the RDA at 210 Lambert's Lane.
Do I hear a second?
Just
Second.
Grady second.
Having heard a motion in a second to, for a -2 determination for the barn, the RDA 21-11 at 210 Lambert Lane. We're going to take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Just Grady, aye.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 7-0-0. Thank you very much.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You have a good night now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next hearing this evening is NOI 21-27 for 80A Nichols Road. I'm going to read it in the record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on the Zoom platform from applicants John Burris and Vicky Modest for notice of intent 2127 for renovation to an existing single-family dwelling within the buffer zone to a coastal bank at 80A Nichols Road. Charlotte. Vicky.
Yes, I promoted John Burris and John Cavanero.
Very good.
Good evening.
Hi, John.
Good evening, John.
Good evening. You guys are ready. It was John Teriyaki in the audience as well, Charlotte. Okay, he'd be welcome to join us as well. So good evening for the record.
And Teriyaki, it's written.
Yes.
I got it.
So my name is John Cavanero. I'm from Cavanero Consulting, civil engineer in Norwell, Massachusetts, and I'm here with Doctors John and Vicky, John Burris and Vicky Modest, the owners of 88 Nichols Road, and John Teriyaki, the project architect. I will, if Charlotte, if it's okay for me to share my screen, I'll bring up a plan. This is the site plan for 88 Nichols Road. Essentially what I'll do is I'll walk through the resource areas and then zoom in a little bit on the specific work because it's fairly small scale with respect to the overall site. This is about a 31,000 square foot lot measured to high water that sits atop a coastal bank that overlooks the lagoon portion of Little Harbor. So this is sort of down Little Harbor. It looks across to James Islands. And there are three principal resource areas on the property. One going from Little Harbor towards the existing dwelling. We have a strip of salt marsh at an elevation that's about 30 feet below the first floor of the existing home. There's land subject to coastal storm flowage, which is delineated by a contour 10. There is also a coastal bank, which is situated above the coastal floodplain in some areas, and it meets the coastal floodplain in other areas. So coastal bank is defined by the first break in slope, less than 4:1 above the flood elevation. And when it's at 4:1 slope at the flood elevation, then it runs along the flood elevation itself. So this property is sort of surrounded by a large outcrop of ledge, and the floodplain itself sort of wraps around that ledge border, and in some areas it gets very steep. So where the steep slope exists, the coastal bank actually runs to the top of that steep slope, where the slope then breaks at about 4:1. So that's why the coastal bank jogs around the property. So the position of that coastal bank, that top of essentially the top of the ledge outcrop, gets very close to the existing dwelling, which brings a 50-foot buffer line through the majority of the dwelling. And then the 100-foot buffer comes, almost includes the entire lot. So very unique piece of property. Although the bank itself is very stable, this does not provide sediment to a barrier beach below. It's essentially all solid ledge. What the Burris, John and Vicky have been working with John Teriyaki at length on is coming up with some small modifications to this contemporary home to make it a little bit more user-friendly and take out some of the dysfunction, really just from the shapes of some of the rooms. So what they're proposing to do, and also to improve some of the aesthetic value of the home. So I'll just walk quickly through from back to front some of the proposed improvements, all of which are being proposed other than some cantilevered areas over existing either foundation or decking. So in the back, what they're proposing to do is to bump out, I'll zoom in a little bit. In the back portion of the house, there's an existing deck that sort of wraps around the entire rear portion of the house. And within that footprint of the deck, there's the kitchen. What they'd like to do is to expand and square off their kitchen area into a dining area to meet that over the existing deck. And the plan here is to actually utilize the existing foundation that supports that existing deck so that no new foundation will be necessary to put that one level bump out addition onto the back of the house. And by creating that bump out, they'd like to cantilever a section of the deck so that they continue to have access around to the rear of the dwelling. So there's a small portion of cantilever deck that won't require any foundation, but it'll be framed integral to the existing deck. On the second story of the dwelling, they'd like to cantilever a small addition in the second story, and that's outlined here in this dark hash. And then on the front of the building, there are 3 areas that are being proposed to be improved. One is a pergola. It'll be a pervious, really just an architectural feature on the front left corner of the dwelling. This too will have no foundation. It'll simply be a cantilevered pergola. And then in the front of the house, right now there's a covered bluestone patio. They'd like to eliminate that and replace that with a covered porch in a very similar footprint. And then last, there's a small bump out also in the first level that will connect the face of the garage to the existing building, so pulling it out slightly. So in total, it's about 100 square feet of new impervious with these additions, roof additions. But as I mentioned, the majority of them are sort of within the existing confines of the dwelling itself. This property is located on a dead-end common driveway off of Nichols Road. There's a gravel driveway that's retained by some retaining walls with access to an existing garage. And then there's another small driveway, gravel driveway, that also has a stone retaining wall from access to Nichols Road. So the intent is to have all the access for construction activity from the front of the house. It's a very challenging property to try to traverse in the back, which is why there's been sort of great pains have been taken to carefully design some of these architectural improvements to minimize any expansion to the actual on the ground structural foundation. So John is here to answer any questions with respect to the architecture. We do propose to have a siltation barrier that will encapsulate the entire rear portion of the property. So that's in existence throughout construction. There has been a DEP number that was issued by DEP. This is a notice of intent filing because majority of the property is within the 50-foot buffer to that coastal bank. Although from the other sort of more sensitive resource, the salt marsh, we do exceed the 50-foot for the majority. There's a small portion of the cantilever deck that gets to be within a horizontal distance on the plan of just under 50 feet, but in actuality, due to its vertical drop, it's more like 57 feet. So due to the elevation between the two. So with
John,
that,
how are you going to get the construction materials out to the back there
so there's access through the garage.
Okay.
Through the deck.
All right.
There is a narrow access point here with steps that go up to the deck. But I think a majority of it will be coming through, honestly, through the house, through the garage, with some smaller materials being brought around by hand.
Okay.
John, you said the new portion of deck is cantilever?
It'll be a dining room, yeah.
No, I said the new portion of the deck.
The new portion of this deck in the back?
Yes.
That'll just be deck, an extension of the existing deck runs like this around the back of the house.
Right.
And right now it drops. So what they'd like to do is connect
to
the existing deck.
Understood. I'm just asking, you said that's going to be a cantilever structure?
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's all right.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be cantilever.
Charlotte,
John,
do you,
John,
Charlotte,
this
do
is
you
Eric. Can you just summarize whether there is any expansion within the 50-foot of the existing footprint on the ground?
No, there's no on the ground because what's happening on the ground is there are supports right now for this existing deck.
Yeah.
That run sort of here and here, so to speak. This addition, it's a single story addition, will be framed. They've had a structural engineer look at this, and John can feel free to add on. But the plan is to use these existing sonotube footings to support this small addition. And the only really expansion of the footprint from a bird's eye view would be this small piece of deck But as I mentioned, that's being cantilevered, so there's nothing on the ground. And we're certainly not getting any closer than what the existing setback is to the top.
So
of
there is, John, there's no incremental digging or paving or anything going into the ground.
Correct. That's the plan.
Charlotte, do you have anything to add?
I do have a lot of photos for reference, but unfortunately none of them are loading.
Okay.
Jay, I'm not sure if they're loading for you. But I did take a lot of photos of, the ledges around the property and, where the proposed cantilevered additions are going to go, to get like that reference. And it's good that a lot of the equipment is going to be brought through the houses and the garage and, for access.
I do have them loaded up, but I don't have any questions. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to load them up, but I personally don't have any questions. I think that the engineer's done a good job here. I think the geography really limited the project here, but done the best they can to maintain existing structures, working over those, et cetera, using the existing footprint. So I don't have any comment. I do have the pictures, but again, I don't have any comments to them unless somebody really wants to see them. I'll pull them up.
Yeah, it seems to me that our policy of no disturbance within the 50-foot buffer zone is being held to in this case. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The photos were also very helpful, especially after John, you walking us through this whole, I kept looking at the photos and like, what are they going to do? How are they going to do this? And then your description absolutely was very helpful. I thought it was very creative.
Thank you. Yeah, I tried to match the photos of like, this is where the proposed, this part of the project is going to be. So.
Yes, that followed along. That helped me a lot, John, when you walk through. So thank you.
Yeah, I think there are 26 pictures. Again,
Sorry.
happy to-
It was
happy to
also a
show
beautiful
them.
view. So.
Yeah. The more the merrier, but there are 26 pictures. And again, unless somebody wants to see them, Mr. Chair, turn it back to you.
That's fine, unless someone's looking to have a photo answer a question for him. I think we can entertain a motion.
Jay Pimpari make a motion to issue. I think that it's safe to issue a variance here. There will be a little bit of work, although it may not be any major disturbance, but for the sake of a variance, I'll make a motion to issue a variance for work in the 50 for the 80, the project at 80A Nichols Road.
I second.
Having had a motion in a second to issue a variance for work within the 50-foot buffer at 80A Nichols Road, take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pimpari,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 7-0-0.
Jay Pimpari, I'd like to make a motion to issue an order of conditions for the project at 80A Nichols Road.
Can I have a second?
Trish Grady, second.
Having heard a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions for the NOI at 80A Nichols Road, take a roll call vote. William Ashton,
William Ashton, aye.
Tom Bell,
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisenhower, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, aye.
Jay Pimpari,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 7-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay, our next hearing this evening is,
May I ask a
oh,
question?
leave John on.
Hold on 1 second. Suppose we wanted to add an order of conditions.
Well, we could have.
Well, it's too late.
We never went there. We went
Excuse-
straight into the vote. No one said, do you have any more order of conditions or conditions to add? You know, it's not major, but I think that's a critical step. I think in our process, we have to make sure that we touch bases on in the future, not just go off and do the vote by, without any consideration of that.
Okay, so moving forward, if any commissioner makes a motion to issue an order of conditions after the second. If any commissioner would like to add a specific order of condition, the time would be made before the vote, but during the motion, when the motion is being made. So good point there. Moving forward, any commissioners that want to add a special condition to that, please do so when the motion is being made.
Okay.
Our next hearing is NOI 21-25 for 74 Beach Street,
Mr.
which is
Chairman.
a private dock continued from originally from August 26th and also September 9th. John, you want to?
Chris, should we take a 5-minute break?
Sure.
I'm sorry. I'm going to take a 5-minute break. You can stay and continue.
Okay.
I'll see you
That's
shortly.
We'll keep
Okay,
going.
if anyone needs a break, we're gonna hold John's modifications for 5 minutes.
Thank you.
John, is there anyone I should promote?
I don't believe so. Let me check here. The list here. I don't think so. Thank you.
Just gotta tell Eric he's gotta be faster, that's all. Get those orders in.
I think I have to
William, are
think
you
of
still at your
awareness.
office?
Oh, no, that's just our corporate background that comes up on Zoom.
Well, I'm happy to hear you're not sitting in Boston still.
I legit thought you were in your office. It's funny.
I guess it's a good background then. Yeah.
It's very
Very good.
effective.
I like the idea. John, do you have your revised plan handy?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay.
I can pull that up if you'd like. Or should I wait?
You might want to wait just so we can see that Eric sits back down.
I think my striped shirt might be freaking him out. It's freaking me out. I'm gonna wear the striped shirt again. I feel like I'm at a Grateful Dead concert.
It is doing something weird on the Zoom call.
Yeah.
It was good earlier when Kathy and Eric showed up on the screen right next to each other because they both had nice shades of purple. And your striped shirt would have gone right with it.
Yeah.
On my screen, we've got Charlotte, myself, and Tom all in black up top.
That's a good look for Zoom.
I got the black memo.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, you get it too.
Chris, that looks like some great mud and taping in the background there, even though it's blurred out. Is that new sheetrock?
No, it's not. Thank you. That's my my office is now in my dining room because my basement's been flooded out. So
Yeah, that's why I thought you were doing
boy.
some mud and taping.
not yet. I'm still tearing out.
Yeah. Eric, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. John, we'll let you pull up your plan and
Sure, we'll do. So since the
I
last
just
meeting,
wait. I'm sorry. Before we get started, I'm going to inform the commission that I did listen to the tape, but I'm going to just stay out of it. I think you guys have this one covered. I will chair, but I will abstain from voting.
And just to add to that, Mr. Chair, since this is a continuance, we do need to make the mention that unfortunately, Tom Bell and Will Ashton were the voting members this evening, where I don't believe we're voting members at the last hearing.
That's
So
correct.
unfortunately, we'll not be voting on this project tonight. So it sounds like, Chris, we have you, me, Eric, Kathy, and Trish. We have 5 members.
Well,
And we still,
well, since I did listen to the tape, I think I should stay on board then and
Okay.
not recuse myself. There's no reason to. I just was going to try to make things easier, but
okay, whatever you want. So as long as we have a quorum.
yep.
Okay. We good?
Eric, you are with us, right?
I'm here.
Okay.
So since the last meeting, the bulk of the discussion sort of towards the tail end of the meeting was regarding the dimensions of the platform, which is this, actually, I'll extend it, not just the platform itself, but actually we talked about the accessibility factor of this platform. So originally we had a 12 by 12 foot wide by 12 foot long platform. And it was thought by the majority of the commission during the discussion that it would be more acceptable to have as narrow a platform as possible. So we talked about reducing that width from 12 feet to 6 feet. And as a result, it reduced the number of piles as well, slightly. And then additionally, we eliminated steps that came up to the platform with a ramp. So now we have a little bit smoother transition, and we have a narrower platform that goes to the removable ramp and float. Again, this is all sited above the salt marsh. So this does not go through the formal Chapter 91 process because the permanent structure is above the mean high water, and we're not spanning across the salt marsh. So that was the change since the last hearing. Hopefully that addresses the discussion that we had.
Any comments, commissioners?
Let me just say, I've been opposed to these piers every time they come up. I am a consistent no when it comes to piers. I think they are not consistent with our need and our policy to have no development in the 50-foot buffer zone or in the resource area. I have been soundly outvoted in the past, particularly about a year ago in the Gulf, when the emphasis of the commission was on the fact that there's an issue of fairness here. When someone wants to put a pier in, and we say no, but he looks to the left and the right, and there are piers up and down the waterway, it doesn't seem to be very fair. So I think, this is one of these areas where I will continue to vote against it. But I think in the end, there's a reasonableness issue here, and this issue of precedence, all right, is something which we have to pay attention to. So I'm not in favor of the pier. I don't know what other people's feelings are. But I do expect that the pier will probably go ahead. So,
Thank you, Eric.
I certainly understand your position on that, Eric. I think that, in a perfect world, the piers, docks, etc., would be somewhat limited. However, having said that, this project, looking at the plan, there's virtually no disturbance at all to the actual salt marsh. I have to look at the disturbance of this one. And this is not a question of like some of the ones we had in the Gulf, where I do agree there's been a lot of disturbance in the salt marsh and many other projects. This particular one, there's minimal disturbance. It's actually, I believe, at the last hearing, maybe John, you can correct me, 2, if not 4 of the 6 piers that are proposed are going to be sitting on ledge. So there's virtually no disturbance or alteration of the ground other than a couple of piers for the beginning of the ramp leading up to the, not so much the dock or the, whatever you're calling it, the first pier. Yeah. And then the entire, gangway is fully suspended. And so there's no disturbance to the salt marsh. And then we have the float, which, Division of Marine Fisheries has weighed in. So in this particular case, I think this is one of the docks where there's probably one of the most minimal disturbances that we've actually seen on some of our dock projects. So I'm supportive of it. I was supportive of it at the last hearing, as you know, and to see that, It's been reduced from a 12 by 12 structure to a 6 by 12 structure. The piers in the front, there were 3 piers that were proposed. Now there's only 2. So again, when you look at it, there's minimal disturbance to the ground on this project. And when you look at a topo view, you may see a lot, but there's very, very minimal disturbance. So I support the project.
Okay, if you, getting back to your topo view, Jay, I did my topo view and I counted the number of piers in Little Harbor. There are 28 piers in Little Harbor. And on this question of fairness, should we decide this one, which is rather tastefully done, and deny this one in light of the fact that there are 28 already in Little Harbor? And I think probably good sense would say we should go ahead with this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd just like to mention for the commission that Mary Ann Weatherall, when she was a commissioner with us, she provided some nice documentation from the state of Massachusetts, which actually gave all the reasons why boardwalks and docks should be permitted in the wetland buffer area, cross salt marshes, etc. And I just I mentioned it to Charlotte. If we can't, we should pull it up again and make sure we refresh everyone's memory on kind of why the state recognizes them as acceptable methods for crossing through the buffer. So.
Yeah. And so I want to, stick to this project. I'm supportive of it. I think, moving forward, if the commission wants to develop some best management practices, et cetera, for docks, by all means, we should probably do that. But this particular project, I think the engineer has done a great job at minimal disturbance to the ground on this one. So I support it.
Any additional comments?
I have one question for John. John, I almost killed myself this afternoon trying to get down to the area where you're going to put this in. It's very steep. How are people going to get down? It's a very, very steep slope and it's very overgrown. How are people going to access the ramp that you're putting in place?
There are steps that go down, and there's a path that runs along the toe of that slope.
So it's the steps over on the side. They don't run directly down to where you're going down.
No, not going directly down, no.
All right.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion if there's no other comments.
Jay Pimpari would like to, I'm going to, for the sake of time, I think we need a variance for work in the 50 and an order of conditions. So for the sake of time, I'm going to do it all with one motion. Jay Pimpari will make a motion to issue a variance for work in the 50, as well as an order of conditions for the project at 74 Beach Street.
Does anyone have any special conditions that they would like to add to this order of conditions?
Chris, we're not opening up the issue of the tree cutting, are we? That's already taken care of?
No, that's a different project.
Okay, right. No, I have none.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Having heard a motion and a second to issue a variance and an order of conditions for the dock at 74 Beach Street. Take a roll call vote. William Ashton. Oh, sorry, William, you weren't here. Sorry, take that back. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower.
Eric Eisenhower, nay.
Trish Grady.
Grady, aye.
Jay Pimpari.
Jay Pimpari, yay.
Chris McFarland, yay. That vote passes. What was it? Sorry.
4-1.
4-0. Oh, 4-1-0. And Charlotte, just for the record, there is a affidavit that I need to sign that said that I actually listened to the tape. If you would prepare that, I'll come in and sign it.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thoughtfulness.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, as a matter of clarity for myself, am I eyeing or yaying, or does it matter to you?
Yay.
Yay, got it.
It could be, just say yes. It doesn't matter.
Yes works too. Okay, thank you.
You can wave your hand, Tricia.
Our next hearing this evening is for a RDA 21-10. This is a new project at 25 Border Street. I'll read it into the record. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaws and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, September 23rd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform from applicant Marlene J. Wynn, nominee trust, for a request for determination of applicability 21-10 to construct a proposed 7.5 foot by 16 foot addition to an existing dwelling at 25 Border Street.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. For the record, I'm Steve Bjorkland, representing the Wynn Nominee Trust. And this is hopefully the simplest project you've seen tonight. It is a 7.5 foot by 16 foot bathroom that's being added to the back corner of her house, which actually squares the back of the house off. It is approximately 91.39 feet from the face of the top of the coastal bank, which is the concrete wall at Cohasset Harbor. And approximately 8 feet of this foundation is within the buffer zone. It is going to be hand dug and it will be cinder block. I think if they dig about 2 feet deep by hand, they're going to be on ledge. So these cinder blocks will be pinned to the ledge in the back left corner of the house. There's not going to be much material removed. I mean, maybe a couple of wheelbarrows, that's about it. And everything will be done by hand, and hopefully the commission will grant a negative determination for the project.
Thank you. Charlotte, do you have anything to add?
I do have site photos. I'm hoping they can load, but I'm happy to share those as well. Just wanted to share the site plans. But I did walk the site with Steve and Marlene Wynn, and, explain the project. And, as Steve said, a lot of the equipment will go in this back patio area. Actually, all of it will. So it will not be in the outer buffer zone.
Okay. Commissioners, does anyone have any questions?
No questions, Steve. Thank you for putting together the plan, etc. I was looking at this saying to myself, 99% of people in Cohasset probably would have done this project without even pulling a permit. So I applaud you for doing the right thing here and coming in front of us tonight. Sorry I had to wait so long.
I have no issue with waiting that long, and it's the right thing to do. If I was at 99 feet, I still would have filed for it. And just so you know, I did get the black shirt memo, so that's what I have on. Thank you guys very much.
Okay. Well, if no one has any comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Jay Pimpari will make a motion to issue a -2 determination on the RDA for where the hell are we? 25 Border Street.
Do I hear a second?
Sorry.
Having heard a motion in a second. What did you just make a motion for? Oh, a -2.
-2 RDA.
Yeah. Having heard a motion in a second to issue a -2 determination for RDA 21-10 at 25 Border Street, we will take a roll call vote. William Ashton.
William Ashton, yes.
Tom Bell. Do we lose
Sorry.
Tom?
Tom Bell, aye.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Trish Grady, yes. Aye, yay.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pimpari, yes.
and Chris McFarland, yes. That vote passes 7-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I sign off, could I just say thank you to all the commission members and welcome aboard to the new people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
Great.
Good night.
Okay, we're done with hearings for tonight, but we do have a discussion item coming up. Charlotte, I'm going to let you maybe introduce this.
Yes, is
I
this,
take it everyone who's left is part of the discussion or not?
yeah, I think everyone's here. I think we took the, is this the Treats Pond one? We
Yes, it
did.
is.
Okay, we did actually discuss this with Brian Joyce, that we will continue it to the 10/21 meeting in the future. So we can, we don't have to discuss this tonight. They updated me yesterday that they are collecting more information, and we'll put together a presentation to discuss this at 10/21.
Okay. So that hearing is now continued.
Charlotte,
that
may I
discussion.
suggest you pass out to the members of the Concom the articles that I sent you, there's 5 or 6 pages, because it explains a lot about the history of this. This goes back a long ways, all right? I'm afraid to do it because I think I would be rapped by our chairman for breaking the open meetings law by sending something out, but he wouldn't dare do that to you.
Yeah, please don't forward anything with Eric's comments.
Well, it will be good to have a discussion on this and hear some
Yeah.
different points of view, that's for sure. Okay, our next item is minutes for approval. We have 2 sets of minutes. I know that some people have made some comments on those. These are the August 12th and the August 26th meeting minutes. Does anyone have any final comments or
No.
Can we make a motion?
Jay Pimparo make a motion to, I'm going to do this in one again.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Angela, for making the minor comment there to the original ones there. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 12th and August 26th.
Kushkari, second.
Having heard a motion, a second to approve meeting minutes from August 12th and August 26th, we'll take a roll call vote. Will Ashton,
Will Ashton, yes.
Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Tom Bell.
Is it appropriate for me to vote on minutes where I was an associate?
It's okay.
Yes, it is.
Tom Bell, aye.
Eric Eisenhower,
Eric Eisner, aye.
Trish Grady,
Kushkari, yes.
Jay Pampari,
Jay Pimpari, aye.
Chris McFarland, aye. That vote passes 7-0-0. Okay. Looks like we have some business to attend to. We have an approval of order of conditions for previously approved projects. Charlotte, you want to do we have orders of conditions to approve?
No, we actually already issued those orders of conditions because they were due last Thursday. So we can, nothing at this time.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to report this evening?
Not at this time, but I'm definitely going out to a lot of the sites. So I'm glad everyone appreciates the photos so far, but if there's anything that, looks unclear in the summary, site summary visits or anything like that, definitely feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other documents requiring approval or signatures?
Not at this time.
What about the category 1 stormwater permits?
Oh, yes. Is there one at the end of the agenda for tonight?
We have 2, 133 Beach Street and 10 Highland Court.
Oh, right. Yes. We have the stormwater reports and the site plans for those. And I took a look at 10 Highland Court and, took some photos for reference. 133 Beach, I did not get to that yet, but the plan is to add a pool. And there's the plan that was submitted. I had no questions on those. I'm not sure if anybody else has questions, but we can issue those stormwater permits if there are no concerns or questions.
So
I just want to make a point to the new commissioners here. The reason that there's no public hearing for these stormwater permits is they're classified as a category 1, and which allows an administrative review and which allows our agent to actually approve these projects without the public hearing. They still have to undergo all the engineering background if you saw them on the OneDrive as they normally would, but again, they're not required to have a public hearing. And basically, if you look at our stormwater rules and regulations, the categories, anything short of a single family dwelling could be considered a category 1 and not require a public hearing. So in the past, our previous agents, unfortunately, either didn't get the approval out within 21 days or approved them on the spot without notice from the commission. So now we put them on the agenda. This is why we're talking about them. We put them on the agenda. If there are any issues to be brought up, bring them to Charlotte's attention. Otherwise, they'll be administratively approved. So just want to throw that out there. Mr. Chair, did
Definitely
you?
helpful to have them on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mhm.
What were you gonna say, Jay?
Did you have any comments to the Highland Court project?
That's the swimming pool. No, I had no comments.
I don't think that was the swimming pool.
The 10
Beach-
Highland Court is the addition. They're bumping out an addition from the garage area. There is one tree in the proposed plan that
yeah.
will come down to accommodate that addition.
Yeah, no, I had no comments on either
Right.
plan.
I don't have any comments either.
Right, do we, just under project updates, we have a list of projects that I have asked for council review on. Because we have new council and we really haven't received anything from the select board or from the town manager, notifying us of who the person is. I know that at the last hearing, she actually attended. Amy, what's the last name, Jay?
Quessel.
But I actually reached out to select board and to town manager to ask for any kind of protocol that they want to put into place on this, and I haven't heard back yet. So those items will continue on the list and until we get town council to sit down with us and discuss concerns. If there's any projects in the past or in the future that you have personal concerns about, or you see something around town, just let me know. We'll add it to the list.
I just note that 10 Diab Lane, they're staging material over there. And we all know how Matt Shannon behaves. If he were to go in there over the weekend and start clear cutting, it wouldn't be out of character, let's just say.
Yeah.
As I understand, Tom, the building department has put a cease and desist order on those 3 lots. Charlotte, I don't know if you know anymore, but there's a question of whether or not they're actually buildable lots, even though they have conservation. And this is a 48-hour issue, correct? So we can openly
Yes.
talk about it a little bit. As I understand, the building department has put a cease and desist order on those lots.
I don't think they've actually put a cease and desist. I think they've just not issued any
They
permit.
haven't issued the building permits for those properties. It's
So-
3, 9, and 15 Diab Lane.
So if there's any, Charlotte, maybe if you're in the office tomorrow or could do a site visit out there and just
Yes.
verify whether or not if there's any construction activity going on at all. Inform John or inform the people out there they do not have a building permit and they should cease all construction.
It looks to me like they've dragged a downed tree near to the street. And it looks like they may have actually toppled a tree farther up the hill, just east of where they've staged their silt fence.
Yeah, I agree that that whole site needs to be monitored closely, almost on a daily basis.
Just so everyone's aware, the land alteration bylaw that passed at town town meeting was ratified by the Attorney General. And section 11.4A actually says that no clearing is permitted until all permits are in place. And the building department is recommending that the planning board and the Conservation Commission, as part of our order of conditions, actually put language into any order of conditions that we issue that says that the land should be posted to inform all parties that no clearing can take place until all permits are in place, and that it's the obligation of the applicant to actually post the land so that, no one goes in there and does it. So it's something we'll do as we move forward, where we're trying to make sure that people aren't going to start clearing the day they get our permit and not a bunch of other permits. Any other 48-hour issues?
No, I just want to say it's nice to see some new faces out here. William and Chris, welcome aboard. I know with tonight's discussion was, hopefully very helpful. Good, bad, and the ugly across the board. But I think one of the things that if you haven't already figured it out yet, navigating the OneDrive and navigating that. If you have any questions, I'd strongly encourage you to talk to Charlotte. I know she's only been here a few months or so, but I think she's mastered it by now. It can be a little tricky. All of the applications, et cetera, are all uploaded by date. We're hopefully going to continue to do a good job with that. Thanks to Angela and Charlotte for getting everything uploaded in a timely basis now moving forward. We've got a new agent in place, so we're moving in a right direction here. But I encourage you, if you have any questions or anything, to Chris McFarland would love to talk to you. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Happy to talk to you as well. If you have any questions, by all means, call Charlotte. And again, if there's any issues navigating that OneDrive. I will note that the fall MAC conference, the MACC, it's the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners. I think it's in early October. All the sessions are virtual. And so even if you want to take they're like hour-long, 2-hour sessions, like Wetlands 101, Orders of Conditions, how to run an effective meeting. There's a whole laundry list of different, this goes for everybody, laundry list of sessions. The town will pay for all of the sessions. So they're like an hour and a half, sometimes during the day, sometimes at night, but strongly encourage you to sit in on a couple of those as an overview, as a refresher, et cetera. And if you don't already have that link, Charlotte, if you could forward that link off to everybody, that would be great. The MAC link for the workshop next month.
Yeah, I can do that. The dates are October 19th through the 21st. So I think that's like a Tuesday through Thursday.
There's a password, isn't there? We have to have.
No,
there's something we need.
Charlotte, how have you been registering? Because in the past, I've always just sent an email to Lindsay and said, Lindsay, she's the administrator, can you please register me for, this class? And then they bill the town and we don't see any of that. How have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I registered as a member, as a MAC member, and there's a discounted rate for that. And once you register as a member, then you can start to register for the classes. And Angela's been helping me with the invoices. So we can email, Lindsay and any of the other MAC members to register for the courses. And then whoever the, designated person is for that particular course. And then we can email them personally and say, we need an invoice. And then we can forward those to Angela. But just to give Angela, a heads up as well, not, doing it last minute, definitely like I did, unfortunately, for some of my first few classes. So trying to be more proactive for the future.
Well, it might be helpful if anybody, Charlotte, if you send that out and if anybody actually wants to register, maybe not to put the burden on you, but we could just get a group, together and so that you could just forward that out or kind of coordinate the registrations for the commission for that workshop.
Charlotte, I was issued a MAC password by Lindsay. So
okay. So you have an account?
There's a password. I don't know whether I need it or not now, but she gave me a password. So you might want to check and just find out whether that's something that's essential or not.
Yeah, usually when I log into the Mac website, there's a user and password, and then you can look at the calendar and see all the courses that are coming up. And the fall conference is on there. And there's an agenda as well, which I can send in the email for reference. But there's a lot of interesting workshops that are scheduled. So
And new ones that they haven't had before.
yeah.
Some new things.
Oh, that's good to know.
I always ask how the agenda for next week is looking. I just looked on the OneDrive and it appears that there are a bunch of Category 1 permits. So those not require public notice, but it looks like a shorter agenda that I don't think anyone's going to be upset about. But since Treats Pond has been moved to the 21st, is that safe to say a shorter agenda?
Yeah, for the 10-7 agenda, yes, we have a couple NOIs, and with 2 of the 4 NOIs, I believe, they have administrative and Category 1 stormwater permits, and then the other 3 projects are Category 1 stormwater permits or administrative. So half the items in the OneDrive are for stormwater permits.
All right.
Charlotte, can you comment on the Straits Pond Tidegate Advisory Committee meeting?
Sure. Yeah. So it was on Wednesday at 11 a.m. So I called in a handful of, great people. Seemed like they're already on the committee, which is awesome. And they were giving some updates on the tide gates, with the mechanisms of how to open it. Apparently the manual override system will actually be easier to operate than in previous, fashion. And what they are looking into is there is some sort of delta that might be blocking the flow. And so we talked to one of the Woods Hole members who called in, who gave some updates on potentially doing some exploratory work there to see, the soil makeup and everything in that delta, and seeing if it might be possible in the future to dredge it, which I know will be a lot of, regulatory complexities with that, but they wanted to do some exploratory work to take some sediment samples, do some analysis and bathymetry work. And so that might possibly be coming to conservation commissions, depending on how the exploratory work is set up. But basically they look like they are moving in the right direction, but I can of course do more research on the history with the floodgates. But the conservation administrator from Hull, Chris, is very well informed, it seems like, and he is heavily involved in every aspect of that project. But yeah, they were giving a lot of good updates on the mechanisms to move the tidal gates and monitor the buoys that are outside the Straits Pond area, and kind of correlating that with when we might need to open and close those gates. So it seems like they're kind of considering it from every angle. So that definitely sounds like, it sounded like some great updates that they are giving on the committee call. But yeah, I can keep everyone posted on the exploratory work they are looking into doing. And yeah, I can provide more updates as they come.
But was there any mention of when they would have the automated tide gate operation restored?
I can look back at that, but they did give a general estimation, but they weren't sure. They wanted to have it functional very soon, within the next handful of months, but I'm not sure if that will be met. I can follow up with Chris on that and get back to you on the exact timeline.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks.
No problem.
I have a question. So I know we have a boilerplate, like standard order of conditions that we issue with all of our projects. Is that something that we could share on the OneDrive so it's accessible to folks, especially because I know, Eric, just in talking about how we kind of passed that without, any more specific order of conditions, it might be a nice refresher for us to also be able to look at that regularly to know what's covered. It will trigger folks too, if there's anything additional that we want to speak up to.
Sure. Yeah, I can post that in OneDrive. I actually had some thoughts for the template. I know it was recently updated by previous agents, but it is quite a long list. And so I figured maybe we can cut it down a little bit so it's not as repetitive to the order of conditions form, but also still keeping everything in there. So,
I was very, bringing what you said, I was very surprised when I saw what always goes in there, because I never read the length of it in a long time.
Yeah, so some of the conditions aren't always applicable to every project, which we can definitely take out depending on, what projects we're issuing them for. But yeah, I definitely, I'm open to, comments on that. So I can post that in OneDrive.
Yeah, I'd like to say, I don't think you need to start pulling stuff out and putting stuff in. Then you just run the risk of pulling something by mistake.
True.
Let 1 through 50 stand or whatever it is, and then, 51 through whatever would be the special orders. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, I'm more for reference to be able to easily access it.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Okay,
know we've
yeah, I
talked
have
about
it.
it a
I can
million
post that
times.
in OneDrive.
Yeah, that's all, Chris. I agree. More is more sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
have to, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
All right, any other comments? I hear a motion to close the,
Just one for me, sorry. Thank you,
Please.
Jay, for the welcome, but the only question I have is, how do I get to the OneDrive that everybody keeps talking about? That's all.
I can send you a link and you can usually access it with your Cohasset email. I think we can, we might have to add him to the.
William, I have an app, all right? It
You
takes it right there.
You have an app?
Standard Microsoft app.
did you get an email, William?
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
Okay, so Charlotte, can you look into getting them emails? I mean, once you have an email, it's an Outlook, and you can click right on the Outlook and it brings you to the one, you get a choice of going to the OneDrive. So, yeah, for William and Chris, let's make sure they both have email access and access to the OneDrive. And have either of you gotten like a paper copy of the regulations?
I have a PDF.
You have a PDF?
Chris, I sent a PDF, a searchable PDF to everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Great document, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. If you have a Windows machine, installing the OneDrive is really straightforward. I don't know what you do if you've got a Mac. Throw up your hands in despair.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I have a Mac, and it is actually quite easy.
Yeah.
Really?
Once you get a Cohasset email and you get logged on there, I mean, I'm happy to do a screen share now. I know it's late and probably everyone wants to leave.
No,
But
we have OneDrive at work. I didn't know it was linked to a Cohasset email, so that makes sense.
yeah, it is. So once you log in there, OneDrive, then there is a whole bunch of folders. You got to click on a few folders to actually get there, but now it's all by date and everything punches up. And happy to do when you get it, call me or call Charlotte. I'll do a screen share and quickly just run you through it. Take a couple minutes and you'll be experts.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you.
Don't forget to do your security course.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Motion to adjourn.
So move. Good night.
All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Yes.
Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
And everybody.